Hey everyone, back again with another exciting video. Still working on transformations. This video will pertain to counterclockwise. So counterclockwise would be going in the opposite direction. All right, so if I start here, counterclockwise would go in this direction. So if I start here again, counterclockwise. Clockwise would be going in the opposite direction, just like a clock would on the wall. All right, so today we're going to talk about counterclockwise. All right, let me get my pen here. Make sure everything looks good. Today feels like a purple kind of day. Let's go with purple. All right, so rotation 90 degrees counterclockwise about the origin. All right, so like we talked about in the previous video, when we go 90 degrees, say we take this I, 90 degrees would be just shifting it over one coordinate, or in this case, one axis. All right. So for I, since that's the simpler one of the 3 points, all we're going to do is take this I, and we're going counterclockwise. So we're going to go this way. And we see that from our 0 point, we are 4 over, or 4 up. Then over here, we're going to be 4 over. All right, so it's the same distance from our middle point. All right, so 4 and 4. All right, let's talk about the H. Let's kind of work backwards. All right, let's talk about H. So we can see that if we have our axis here, we can see that we went in this direction away from I. All right, so we're going this way. So if we want to look at it, we're 2 up and 1 over. All right, so let's translate that 90 degrees. Start at our 0 point. Let's go over 2. 1, 2. And then we said it was 1 away from I. And so let's go down 1, plot our point. That is our H prime. All right, let's look at J. All right, so H was away to the left, all right, way to the left from I. J is away to the right. So this is going to be up. H was down. J is going to be up. All right, so we can see that J from our center point is 2 and then 3 up. So let's go over 2 and let's go 3 up. All right, let me get the line tool. Let me change the color to purple. All right, let's connect our dots. All right, and that is what your figure should look like. So now let us determine the coordinates. All right, so for H, so H prime, so this is our original H. We were -1, +2. Now we're going to be -2, -1. 1, and then I. All right, so originally we were 0 and 4. Now we're going to be -4 and 0. And then for J, all right, for J we were originally 3, +2. Now we're going to be -2, +3. And that should be your answers for this problem. All right, so again, 90 degrees counterclockwise, we're going backwards. All right, so we're just shifting the figure over one coordinate or quadrant, or you can see we can use reference of the axis line as well. All right, let's do another one. All right, rotation 90 degrees counterclockwise about the origin. So here we are. This is our original figure, and we're going to shift it to the left, right? Because we're going back. We're going counterclockwise. All right. So let's start with U. All right. So we can see that on this axis, U is 1 away, and it's also 5 is 1 away from the axis, but it is 5 away from our center point. All right. So here's our U. We're going to go counterclockwise, 90 degrees. So if we do so, we know that from here it's 5 away. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we also know that U is one space away from our axis line. So we just go over 1, plot our point, and we have u prime. All right, now let's do s. Let's work backwards. We can see our s here. On the axis line, it's one away, so it will follow the same general path as u, and then it is going to be 1, 2. All right, 1, 2 away from this axis. So if we flip it 90 degrees, we're going to work from this axis. So if we go up 2, 1, 2, we have s prime, because we know that s and u is one space away from the axis. And when we flip it, it's going to be one away from this axis. And then t should be pretty easy, because all we have to do is we have our s. We just go 2 spaces to the left of s, 2, and we have our point. So essentially, once you have one given point in your new formation, you can pretty much have an educated guess as to where the rest of the points will lie. All right, so let's get our new coordinates. All right. So for s, we were positive 2, positive 1. Now we're going to be a negative 1, positive 2. For t, all right, t originally was here, so that was positive 2, positive 3. T is, and our t prime is here, so we're going to be negative 3, positive 2. All right, because we go over negative 3 and up 2. And then u, all right, let's see here. Originally, our u is here, so we were over 5, up 1. Here, for u prime, we're going to be negative 1, up 5. All right, so not too difficult, not too difficult. All right, let's move on to another one. All right, again, rotating 90 degrees counterclockwise about the origin. So this one's kind of similar to what we had in the first example. All right, so let's take the easiest point of them. Let's take R. All right, so if we're moving 90 degrees counterclockwise, we're going in this direction. All right, so we can see that from our 0 point, R is 2 away, and it stays on the axis. If we move this point 90 degrees, we know it's going to be 2 away, and it's not going to be, there's no, it's going to remain on the axis. All right, so that's the easy point. Okay, so let's find the rest of our points. So that's R prime. All right, let's find P prime. So we know on this axis, we know that it is below R. So when we move it, it's going to be to the right of R, one space, and it's going to be down 2 away from R. So if we start here, we know it's going to be down 2, and then 1 away from R. All right, so again, we have a reference point, so R. So we know if we follow the axis down 2, and then go to the right 1 of our axis, we know that is going to be P prime. And then now we know that Q is on the same plane as on the same side as P. Right? So we know our Q is going to be somewhere on this line. So all we have to do is count from P. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, let's connect our dots. Make sure we do the same figure. You know what? I believe we do. All right, so we took this original picture and we rotated it 90 degrees. All right, so now let's find or determine our new coordinates from our prime variables. All right, so for P, so P was originally here. P prime is now here. So we are over 1, down negative 4. All right, for Q prime, we originally were negative 4, positive 3. All right, so now we have Q prime. We are over negative 3, down negative 4. And then for R prime, originally we're negative 2 and 0. Now we're going to be, negative 2 and 0. Now we're going to be 0 and negative 2. All right. So we originally with r we went over -2 and we didn't go up or down. So our r prime is we're not going left or right, but we'll go down -2. All right. So that covers the 90-degree counterclockwise. All right. So now let's talk about the 180. 180 is a little bit easier, especially if you have a ruler. All right. So 180. Now, the reason there's no clockwise or counterclockwise is the fact that if you go clockwise, you'll end up the same spot. If you go counterclockwise, you'll end up in the same spot. All right. All right. So let's see. Let's start with I. Actually, yes, let's start with I. All right, so I. From our 0 point, we know that it is 2 away. All right. The cool thing about 180 is use 180 to your advantage. 180 means, let me write it down here. Let me do a different line. Let me do this one. Oops, I didn't have one on both sides. Oh well, doesn't matter. Okay, so this is equal to 180 degrees. All right, a straight line is 180 degrees. Okay, so let's use this to our advantage. So we know that from this point, we know that our I is 2 away. So let's go 2 in the opposite direction. 1, 2. I'm going to do a little bit bigger point. Let's do maybe that one. All right, so let's go 2 away in the opposite direction. Plot and point. All right. Now, we know from I, we know K is going to be 1, 2 down the axis and over 3. All right. So from I, let's go up 2, 1, 2, and then over 3. Plot our point. For J, we know that from I, it is 1, 2, 3. 3 from I. We'll go in the opposite direction from this point. And then it is 4 over. All right, so from this I, let's go down 3. 1, 2, 3, and then over 4. All right. So now let's connect our dots. All right, something like that. And we can see that we rotated the figure 180 degrees. All right, now, let me show you a trick. Let me do that one. I'll keep it neon green. All right, now let me show you a trick. Use a ruler to your advantage. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from, well, let me start with I. All right, so with I, when we're rotating a figure 180 degrees, start on I, and go that direction. You can see how I and I prime through our center axis creates a straight line. Let's look at J. If I take J and I go through that same center axis, follow all the way through, you can see from J to J prime, you can see that it creates a straight line. Let's look at K. If I take K and I go through that center axis, I can see that if I connect K and K prime, it creates a straight line. All right? I'll do a few more of those examples in the next or how to do that in the next couple examples. All right. For right now, let's figure out our coordinates. All right. So for I prime, originally we were 0, -2. Now we're 0 and 2. For j prime, for j, we were originally -4, +1. Now with j, we are +4, -1. For k, all right, originally we were -3 and -4. Now we're +3, +4. And that's it. Pretty easy. And here in a little bit, I'll come back to each one of the 180 problems, and I'll show you kind of a pattern. Hopefully, maybe some of you picked it up. I'm kind of trying to emphasize a little bit, but maybe you guys picked it up. But we'll come back to that. Let's go through all three examples. All right. So let's try that line business. All right. Let's do, if we do K, well, let's start with J. If I take J, start there, and go all the way through, I can see that 180 would be right there. If I take K, all right, so we'll take K and we'll go through the axis point. I can see that K here, K prime here, all right, take the line again, and let's do L. If I do L and go through the axis point, I can see that L would be right there. Now, similar to 90 degrees, once you get one prime variable, once you figure out where one of the prime variables out of 3 you need, once you figure out one of them, it's pretty easy to just fill in the blanks of, okay, and from that number, I'm this number, and then up that number. It's pretty easy to see it that way. So I'm giving you many different ways to figure this out. This line thing is only just one. All right, let's get rid of the lines now. All right, and let's connect these lines. So go back to this, go back to that, do purple. All right, let's connect our dots here. And we can see that we rotated the figure, or the picture, 180 degrees. All right, so now let's determine our coordinates for this. So for J, we were originally 2, -2. Now we are -2, +2. All right, for K, we can see with K, we were 4, -2. Now we're -4, +2. And then for L, we are, we were over 4 and -5. Now we're over -4, +5. And that's it. All right, let's do the last example. All right, so this one's pretty easy. All right, let's try doing this without the line method. So we know F 180 is the same spot. All right, it's like a circle. It goes all the way around, stays in the same spot. That's our pivot point. All right, so let's determine. From F to E, we know if we follow this axis line, we know it is 2 over. I'm sorry, we know it's 5 away from our center point, but then we know it's also 2 away from our axis point. All right, so let's go in the opposite direction. Let's go down 5 and over 2, and that is E prime. All right, so now let's find D prime. All right, if we follow our F, or follow from our F, we know on the axis it's 1, 2, 3 away, and 1, 2, 3, 4 away from the line. All right, so let's go down 3 1, 2, 3. And we know it's 4-way in the opposite direction. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, let's draw our line. All right, and we can see we did indeed rotate 180 degrees. So now let's determine our numbers here. So originally, let's start with D. Originally, we were -4, +3. All right, now we are +4, -3. All right, for E, originally we were -2, +5. Now we are +2, -5. And for F, F stays the same. All right. Now let me go back to the fourth example, and we're still talking about 180. There's something I want to show you. All right, let me get this tool here. I'm going to do. Let me see here. Let me copy this. Oops. Copy that. Bring it down here. So this is our prime numbers. All right, bring this down. All right. All right, so let's do, these are the original answers. All right, so for I, we were 0, -2. For J, we were -4, -4 and 1. And for K, we were actually, let me do this a different way. Let me get rid of that altogether. Let me do it this way. All right. Let's do I equals, so I originally was 0 and -2. J originally was -3, 1, 3, 1. All right. Oops, go down one more. And then K was originally -3, -4. All right, let me put a couple spaces in here. Now, so for I, our original coordinate was 0, -2. Now look at I prime. Since it's 0, we kept the 0. All right, but then what happens between our original and our prime variable in the coordinates? We went from a negative and it became a positive. Wait, I did something wrong with J, didn't I? Oh, this should be -4. I just realized that. Okay, so back to I. So we see with our original coordinate I, we can see that it was 0, -2. Now when we rotated 180 degrees, we can see that 0 stays the same because 0 is 0. There's no opposite of 0. But the opposite of -2 is +2. All right, let's look at J. J originally was -4 and 1. All right, when we flip it 180 degrees, we're looking at the opposite. So J prime was, the opposite of -4 is +4, and the opposite of +1 is -1. All right, let's look at K. K originally was -3, -4. All right, so for K prime, if we're rotating 180 degrees, the opposite of -3 is +3. and the opposite of negative 4 is 4. All right, let's do that on the next one. All right, so J equals, J originally was 2, negative 2. Oops, 2, negative 2. All right, for K equals, originally K was 4, negative 2. And for L, oops, yeah, that's right. And for L, we originally were 4, negative 5. All right, now let's take a look. Oops, we're going to put parentheses there. All right, in our original coordinate for J, we had 2, negative 2. So when we flip it 180, the opposite is negative 2. So 2 becomes negative 2, and negative 2 becomes 2. For K, we originally were 4 and negative 2. For K prime, the opposite would be 4, positive 4 would become negative 4. And negative 2 would become positive 2. And for L, we had positive 4, so we went over 4 and down 5. Now, with L prime, we're going to do the opposite, so we're going to go over negative 4 and up positive 5. All right. And let's do it for the last one. All right, so we got D equals, and original D was negative 4, positive 3. All right. E, original E was negative 2 and 5. And F was originally 0 and 0. All right, so let's check it out. All right, so we see this is our original coordinate, negative 4 and 3. So when we found our D prime, we determined that our negative became a positive and our positive become a negative. All right, let's look at E. E was originally negative 2 and positive 5. So to determine E prime, all we had to do was go from negative to a positive 2 and a positive 5 to a positive or to a negative 5. And then for F, it was 0. All right, so I hope these are some helpful hints. Maybe I'll do a quick video just on the different ways you can determine how to, especially 180, how to determine where you're going to go with your figure. All right, I hope this video helps you. If you have any questions, just let me know. I will see you on the next video. Goodbye.